How many of you guys really enjoyed Easter? The message was amazing. We saw 12 people get saved, and we saw 12 baptisms. Incredible. I think that deserves some. And then, man, we have just an amazing pastor, Pastor Heath. You know, he's gone today, and so I get to talk about him. He always talks about me, so if I could only tell you the stories. No, I'm just kidding. No, but we have an amazing pastor, and you know what he does up here each and every week. I think he deserves a round of applause for what he does, and we're just very thankful to have him. And so today, like that video said, it's BYOB. This is a place that you bring your own breakthrough. This is a place where we always, you know, people always ask God, bring me a breakthrough, bring me a breakthrough. But this is the place and this is the church that we're going to provide. We're going to bring the breakthrough. God calls us to do it, He'll provide the blessing. We just got to get up and do it. And so that's what I'm going to be speaking about today is bringing your own breakthrough, because God really wants to do some big things in us. He wants to do big things for us, through us, and He just got some big things, and He wants to provide a breakthrough for us, but we got to be able to do that for our own selves. And so, anybody need a breakthrough? I'm not going to bring the mic down to you, but anybody got to raise your hand? Anyone need a breakthrough? A lot of people. Man, you guys are really quiet today. Second service usually like excited. Now it's like crickets. All right, well, we'll jump right in. This is a story about a guy that needed a breakthrough. We're going to be in John chapter 5. And this is a man that he's been paralyzed for years, and he needed something. He needed Jesus, and so Jesus provides this for him. So we'll jump right into the story in John 5, 1 through 6. It says, sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. We don't know what festival it is. We just know that there's a festival. Now, there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called the Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 colored colonnades. What you need to know here is that Jesus had a purpose for going to Jerusalem, but He took time out for another purpose to go heal somebody. So He is a meeting inside of a meeting. And then it says here, everybody say here. Here. Everybody say it better, say here. Here. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie. The blind, the lame, the paralyzed, the addicted, the gossips. If I kept going, I'd probably hit you too. But I'll be nice and I'll just keep going about this guy. So one who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. He had been going through this condition for 38 years. And when Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, He asked him, "Do you want to get well?" And I do want you to notice that there was no verse 4 in there. I went straight from verse 3 to verse 4, or verse 5, and I'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But listen, Jesus didn't just go up and see the guy. He's like, "Oh, that's just Bob. Bob's been in the same situation, the same condition for 38 years. I don't need to go do that. I don't need to go help him. He's never going to change. He's not going to change." No, Jesus went up and He found the worst situation so that He could do a miracle in the worst situation. And it's funny that we can come to church and we think that God can only heal and fix the outer parts of our body. But that's not the case, and that's the first point, is that God wants to, a breakthrough occurs when we expose our inside flaws. Breakthrough occurs when we expose the inside, when we are vulnerable, when we expose who we truly are. That's where breakthrough can begin, because it happens in your heart. It's not God providing that for us. It's us asking God to open up our heart and expose our flaws. And this is a place, where breakthrough can begin. And I can't get over the fact that, I've been in church I'm not very old, but I've been in church for a little while, and people come in with this persona that they'll hear and they'll see life-giving messages, and they'll feel Jesus really in the heart, but they won't do nothing about it. They just stay stuck. And they're okay with that, and they're comfortable being in their condition. They don't want to take the steps, the next steps, being baptized, salvation, small groups. They don't want to take those steps because they're afraid if they take those steps, they may get exposed for who they really are. But that's the perfect thing about this church, is that we're all messed up. That we all love each other because we know, I'm a sinner. You say you're a pastor, I'm still a sinful pastor because I don't get it right all the time. You don't get it right all the time. And if you say you're perfect, well, you're not perfect. But but God will fix the worst situation. He looked for the worst situation. And people can be told all the time what to do, just like that guy. Guy told him, get rid of the monkey, and he's like, I don't know what to do. I just got to keep petting it, because eventually, maybe I'll figure out the problem, and maybe you'll tell me the problem. But it reminds me of a story of whenever I used to work out a lot. I don't do it anymore, as you can tell. I am no longer in the physique that I would like to be. But before I met my wife, I went and worked out, but I worked out at a local Y, and there was a guy there, this huge, big muscle, probably couldn't even wipe his own butt because his arms were so big. But his nickname was Rush, and so Rush spent hours a day at the gym lifting and doing all this, but there was another guy there, and we'll just call him, since we're in Southwest Missouri, we'll call him Bubba. Now, Bubba spent more time there than Rush. Bubba was there before Rush, Bubba was there after Rush, and Bubba was there on the weekends when Rush wasn't there. But Rush's physique did not represent the fact that he was at the gym all the time. He had one of those shapes called round, and yeah, it didn't look like he'd been to the gym, but he was there all the time. And so one day, I went up to Rush, and I was like, Rush, why doesn't Bubba look like you? And he stopped me and goes, Bubba don't come here to lift. Bubba comes to talk to people on the treadmill. Bubba comes to check out the girls in the aerobics class. Bubba's a creeper. Bubba don't want no gains. And it reminds me of a story whenever I was sitting at lunch break one time. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He works out every now and again. And I was like, man, I just don't see myself working out for like 3 hours a day. I mean, I got kids and my wife and church, and I'd rather spend time doing that. And this other guy comes down, and he sits down next to me. This guy's big, and he's single, so he's got a lot of time. And he looked at me and goes, you like being puny? I don't like being puny. I like lifting. I was like, well, good for you. I was like, but I think I'm in okay shape. I'm not in the greatest shape that I would like to be. I'd like to have an assistant that wiped my own butt whenever, I had to do that. But we'll get past that point. But it's the same thing. It's like I would always go to the dentist, and they would always tell me, Garrett, you need, and I'd be like, okay, I know what you're going to say. I need to floss. Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't floss. I don't like to floss. It doesn't matter if you give me the little Ninja Turtle floss packets. It doesn't matter if you tell me or show me pictures of people that don't floss, or you tell me horror stories about how little Johnny didn't floss and now he's got AIDS. It doesn't matter. I'm still not going to floss. And like I've told every dental assistant before you and everyone after you, I will not floss. And it reminds me of a lot of people here that they'll hear an incredible message, and Pastor Heath could be up here, or I could be up here just preaching our guts out, and you'll hear everything that you need to do, but you're going to sit there and go, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I refuse to move, even though you hear an incredible message, even though you feel Jesus tugging at your heart saying, I'm here. I want to save you. Let me in. Open up your heart. Open up your flaws and let me in. You still sit back and say, no. No. And so we have this persona, and we love the idea of God changing our circumstances rather than we love the fact of God changing who we are. And so there was a pool at the sheep gate called Bethesda where the crippled people lied. And let me tell you that everyone in your row, they all have a condition. And you have a condition. I have a condition. And we sit there, and everyone has these conditions where all you need is a breakthrough in your life to happen. But you're so focused on the condition that you forget about your heart condition. And it changes your heart, not the change of your appearance. Because I could have Lindsay dress me all day long and look this good, but if I dressed myself, if I didn't change the inside, I'd be wearing shorts, sneakers, and high-top socks, because that's who I am. This is who Lindsay says I am. Which I'll agree, Lindsay does a lot better job at picking out my clothes than I do. But we can live so long in this condition, and if I really wanted to get like some scientific information from people, I'd just go to Facebook, and I would put on there, who needs God to do a life change in you? What do you need God to break through in your life? And I bet 99% of them would be fix my situation. Fix my marriage because my husband or wife's gone nuts. Fix my kids because they don't listen to me anymore. I need a better paying job because I still can't tithe. I need this house. I need this. I need that. But you know what wouldn't be said? Maybe, is that I'm selfish. I need God to fix me. I need God to fix my heart because I know that I am the problem. It's not everyone else. It's not the situation. It's not the people around me. It's me. I'm the problem, and I need to get fixed first, and God can only do a work through you when he does a work in you. He's got to do it in you before he can do it through you. And so we need to mark in our lives this moment, because if we want the breakthrough, we're going to have to put the time and the effort to get that breakthrough. If we want a better marriage, we're going to have to put the time in and go to marriage counseling. If we want kids to respect us, we're going to have to actually become a parent. And if we want the house, you better start working at the job to get the promotion to get the house. The place in your heart, you got to change your heart before you do anything else. And so Jesus, he asked him, he says, do you want to get well? Not do you want to change? Not do you want it to change? He asked, do you want to get well? And I can see this guy, start asking these questions about, well, this is what goes on here. And it reminds me of a story. And I have full permission, I just letting you know, from my wife to tell these stories. I don't just get up here and tell these bad stories about my wife. If she got up here on stage, she'd have so many more stories to tell. We have some friends that have heard some bad stories. And yeah, I won't go any farther. But there was this one time that I came home from work. I was all excited to be home, and I get through the front door, and I hear crying. I was like, oh, no, what'd the kids do? And I walk around the corner, and just some marriage advice. If you're going to have kids, or you have kids, and your other spouse is ripping your kids a new one because they destroyed something or they're hitting each other, just act ignorant and walk away. So much easier. Because then you can just be like, I don't know what happened. What'd the kids do? And now you have a conversation when you get home. But she was getting ready to yell at the kids because they were explaining to her why they hit each other. So Maverick explained why he bit Emma, and Emma's explaining why she hit Maverick, and she straight up looks at him. She goes, I don't care who started it. I am going to finish it. And that was a lot nicer way than I prayed for my wife later, because you ever had your wife or your spouse has ever told you that, hey, you're being a little hard on the kids. You need to be a little nicer. And then all of a sudden the horns come out and they're like, why do you do this? So true. So true. I get told that all the time, and then I tell her all the time, and then it's just like a back and forth. But I can just see Jesus saying, I don't care about your situation. I care about you, and I'm going to finish it. Even though this has started in you, I am going to finish it. And so he asked him, do you want to get well? He doesn't ask him, do you want to feel better? Because there's a big difference. We can come to church all the time and want to get well, but we'll never, or want to feel better, but we'll never get well. We love to be comfortable, and we love to leave unchanged, and that's what the pool represented. The pool represented a place of comfort. It's where people with a condition, people with a problem, they could all go and feel normal. It's just like we can come to church and try to feel normal. Even though we're hurting inside, we need someone to pray with. We need someone to talk to, because we have a situation in our hearts that need fixed. And we know it, but we refuse to talk to people about it. We refuse to bring that breakthrough with us. We leave the breakthrough at home. And we expect God to do it for us when God's already done it for us, and all he's asking us to do is just bring it with us. We got to do it. We got to bring our own breakthrough. And they all, around the pool, they all waited for verse number 4 to happen. And now let me tell you, verse number 4, it's in a lot of the older translations. It's not in a lot of the newer translations. Like I read out of the NIV or the NLT. The message is really good, but it's more of a paraphrase than a version. And so if you have the Bible app on your phone, if you read like the NIV, it has a little footnote of what verse number 4 is supposed to be. It goes all the way from 3, footnote of 4, and then starts 5. And I don't know why it's taken out of it for the simple fact that it's some people say that it's not supposed to be in the New Testament. It's not supposed to be there, but it's a big part of why these people sat there and waited for the pool. John 5:4 says, from time to time an angel of the Lord would come down and stir up the waters. So an angel would come down from heaven, stir up the waters of the pool, and the first one into the pool, after each such disturbance, would be cured of whatever disease they had. So everyone wants God to come down. wants God to come down. But that's exactly what religion is the first person in wins. It's the people with the 5-star, the stars for perfect church attendance. It's the people that never do anything wrong. They think they're perfect. Or that's what religion is. It's the first person in wins. But what grace is that Jesus went to the person with the worst situation. Is like, I know you're last, but you're first in my heart. And he came and he fixed his situation. He came and he loved on him. And that's what we need to do. We need to go on and we need to love on people that we know that their situations are bad. We don't need to condemn them for their situations. We need to love on them through their situations. It's only through love that anything can happen. If we spew hate out to everybody, no one wants to be a Christian then. No one wants to follow Jesus, even though he is the perfect representation of what love is. He never condemned nobody. All he did was love. All he did was heal. But we want to corrupt it and we want to judge people because their sins are worse than our sins and we're afraid to expose ourselves. And so Jesus went up to him and he saw this guy and he saw just how much he hurt. He saw that he was at a disadvantage, that he could never get into the well because he was lame, because he was paralyzed. And so Jesus walks up to him and he tells him that he's going to be first and not last. The more desperate the situation, this is another key part, the more desperate the situation, the greater the opportunity for a miracle. Yep. So if you need something from God, right now is the right place and the right time. Right now is the right time for a breakthrough. And they would wait. They would wait for an angel to come down. They begged for an angel to come down. Reminds me of my little boy Maverick. He's 3. He loves these little Ninja Turtle blind bags. They put them together, and he gets like these stealth rafts, and he knows all the names because he watches all the YouTube videos. Don't like any other TV, just likes YouTube. But he loves these little Ninja Turtle blind bags, and he was begging me. He was at Walmart, and he just begging me for a toy. Begging, and crying, and tears running down his face. It's one of those moments you're at Walmart, and you're like, shh, I don't want to beat you here. I'll beat you later. Okay, shh, for right now. But he was crying, he was begging, and he hadn't figured out yet how to manipulate or persuade me, whichever one you want to say, to get the blind bag. But Emma, she kind of does. She's only a year older, and she went up to Maverick, and she was like, Mav, this is not the way to get what you want from Dad. And so she pulled him aside, and that's what I'm doing today, is I want to pull you aside, and you guys that are saying, God, please come down, and just begging him, that's not the way to ask your Heavenly Father. That's not the way. We don't need to beg, because point number 3 is you don't have to beg him for what he's already bought you. And you don't have to convince people. You don't have to convince anybody, because when God decides to do a work in you, it's already done. You got to be the one that puts the work in to get it. And so the man did have some really good reasons of why he couldn't get into the pool, why he couldn't get healed. In John 5:7, he said, Sir, at least the guy was, respectable to Jesus. He said, Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool. When the water is stirred, while I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. And isn't it crazy that we can be in the presence of an unlimited God and still be stuck in our circumstances? Still be stuck in our explanations? And this guy, his facts were true. His facts were true. He couldn't get in. He had nobody, but that's where faith comes in, is faith has the ability to override the facts. Faith has the ability to override the facts, but he didn't know that. And so he's trying to explain to Jesus why the whole situation around the pool. Hey, when this happens, everyone tries to crawl in because we can't walk or we can't see. And so we all try to get into the pool, but I can't do that. And he just keeps reminding him of his situation. And I remember in John chapter 4, just chapter before this, the woman in the well, Jesus came up to her and he's like, hey, woman, give me a drink. If you need a pickup line, single guys, it's a good one. Hey, woman, I need a drink. And she's like, but you're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan. And he's like, I don't care what other people think. Hey, well, I need a drink, please. And so then she looks at him like, you don't even have a bucket. How are you going to get water? He goes, you don't need a bucket when you're the well. There is life inside of me that I want to give inside you. You just have to open up and take it. And if you take it and it runs in you, it's an overfilling well that will never run dry. but you got to be willing to accept who I am. And it's the same thing for this guy. This guy was in the worst situation, and he was giving Jesus everything that every fact that he had. But Jesus wanted to come. The reason he couldn't get to the water is because the water was already walking towards him. The water is already coming to you to drink. You don't need to go to the water. The water's here. You just need to take a drink and feel the overflowing love that is Jesus Christ. Because that is grace. That is salvation. When he walks up to him and he tells him that he is the water. And number 4, breakthrough begins when my excuses end. The guy kept saying, I have nobody. I've got no one. No one loves me enough to pick me up and put me in the water when the angel comes down. I've got no one. All he's doing is just feeding excuses why he can't do this. But see, he didn't know faith. He didn't know Jesus. He didn't know that Jesus could just step right over his excuses and pick him up and he would be completely healed. He didn't know. A lot of us don't know what our next steps are. But if you accept Jesus Christ, that's your first step, and he'll explain everyone after. And Jesus gives us this command. It's a very different view of what happens, but we have this next step in our life, and if we want change to occur, if we want to grow, because growing people change, right? That's one of our things around here. Growing people change. If you don't grow, you ain't changing. And if you ain't changing, you're dying slowly. And you've got to get up. That's what Jesus is telling you to do. You've got to get up. You got to get up. Get off your mat and walk away. Get up, pick up your mat, and walk away. And he kept telling people, he kept saying that I can't do this because they won't help me. And I've noticed that all he's doing is blaming other people. Blaming other people. Well, they just keep blocking my breakthrough. They just keep blocking my breakthrough. I can't do it. And a lot of people will sit there and do that. We'll sit back and we'll be like, well, this person is blocking my breakthrough because they're in a spot that I want to be in. Maybe God's calling you to another spot because maybe that's where they're calling them. God has a spot for you to serve in this house. God has a spot for you in heaven. God has a spot for you to go out and reach someone else. If we went out, last week was an amazing week because we saw life change happen, but the only reason the life change happened is because you guys went out and you invited somebody. It takes us going out away from ourselves, getting away from ourselves, our own selfishness and our situations, and becoming what God has called us to be. He'll use you in your weaknesses. If you have a hard time talking in front of people, God will use that because you may be awkward in the conversation, but you know what? That sparks a conversation, and that when people come, they'll remember who you are because of the awkwardness of your conversation. I am the most awkward person to talk to outside of church. I tried to invite somebody. I'll just tell you this story real quick. So I took one of the Easter invite cards. Me and my wife were trying to get some, blind bags for my son, and for Easter. And this guy started talking to us about the blind bags and how he's telling his wife it's a savings for his college college fund. Maybe it will be worth something someday. Well, we had a good conversation. Well, it ended there. And I felt like I need to invite this guy to church. Well, me being as awkward as I am, I waited until he got out of the store. I walked back from my car to the store. I walked around him. And then I walked back to him like, oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah, he was like, huh. He watched me the whole time as I walked through. Just saying, I was really awkward. But I got to invite him to church. Now, he didn't come to church. But that was only one of the invite cards that I gave out. You can't just expect God, when you give out a card, that he's gonna every time that you give out a card, that person's come to church. It's not that simple. We're not like LeBron James in the playoffs shooting 65%. Sorry, I like LeBron. No, we're more like a baseball player. We may strike out every now and again. We may not hit a home run every time. And our batting average may be around a 140 to a 200. But you know what? Every 10 times you swing, 1 to 2 people will come to church. And so that's what we got to do. We've got to invite. God's going to provide the breakthrough in our life, but we got to take the steps to do it. We've got to take steps. We've got to get up, pick up our mat. We've got to start walking. Unless if you stand still, you're not going anywhere. You're not changing. You're not growing. You've got to take the steps today. Right now is the time, and today, I want you to mark it in your heart, mark it on the ground. Today is the day that I am going to take my next step, and that I am going to change. I'm going to ask God to change my heart before He changes my situation. It starts with you. It doesn't start with anyone else. It starts with you. Don't worry what anyone else thinks. And some people may think that the only thing that's blocking them is other people, but it's not. When you open up your heart and you let God inside, things are going to change. Your life is going to change, and people are going to notice. Don't worry what the naysayers say. If you change your life for the better and people are like, oh, that's not Garrett. He used to do all this. He used to gossip. He used to talk bad about his other employee, his other friends or whatever. But now he's not. They're going to take notice. They're going to see a change in you, and they're going to want to know, how did you get changed? And you can simply tell them that, hey, come to church with me and you'll see. You'll get to experience the same Jesus that I get to experience every single week. And He will not only love you, and our church will not only love you, but it will change your life. I guarantee it. If you come and you stick with me, Jesus will change your life. And so the last thing, I told you guys that this is a BYOB church, that you got to bring your own breakthrough. You got to bring it. I can't do it. Pastor Heath can't do it. Anyone that gets up on stage, we cannot do it for you. You're going to have to do it yourself. And the best way to start is by saying, God, no more excuses. I'm going to pick up my mat, and I'm going to start walking towards you. Simple steps can make a big difference. Let's pray.